Before we get started, here's a quick message from our sponsor with something special for Advent. Do you find yourself scrambling every winter to organize Advent activities for your kids? This Christmas season, Palma Storybooks is releasing a 2025 Advent devotional and activity book that dives deeper than Jesus is the reason for the season. Starting on the first Sunday of Advent and finishing strong with a Christmas Eve scavenger hunt, you will journey through the messianic prophecies, the lineage of Christ, the fulfillment of those prophecies, and the nativity story. The guidebook includes organized scripture readings, coordinating coloring pages, in-home crafts, and recipes. It is recommended that you get one guidebook per household and one coloring book per child. For more information, visit palmastorybooks.com or find them on Instagram at Palma Storybooks. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Come Over for Dinner. I'm Bess Hawthorne, and today I'm joined by a very special guest. She has been married for 7.5 years to her husband, Eric, and she is a boy mom. She has 4 little boys, 1, 3, 5, and 7, so she is extremely busy. She is a self-proclaimed DIY home improvement and cake enthusiast. We are going to hear all kinds of really fun things from her today. Her name is Micaiah Shaw. Welcome, Micaiah.
Thanks so much.
There's another thing I didn't mention about Micaiah. She and her husband have been just in the thick of all kinds of trials, and she has handled it with such joy ever since they've been married, practically.
It has been.
So for 7.5 years, she and her husband have experienced all kinds of things that most of us don't. We're going to talk some about that today. She's had, well, first of all, with their first baby boy, he was born 3 months premature. He was in the NICU for 3 months.
Yep.
And you said you lived in Spokane?
I lived at the Ronald McDonald rooms there with him and didn't come back. Like, I was helicoptered out of here and did not come back till I brought him home.
That is wild.
Yes.
And then with their most recent baby, number 4, he was born needing heart surgery?
Yes, he needed open heart surgery. He had a large VSD, which is a hole in the wall of his heart, and then his aortic arch was narrow. So they were worried about it being pinched off, and it's kind of a big deal if that pinches off. But they did tell us that of the heart issues that he could be coming in for, they're very confident with those sorts of fixes.
Isn't like that wonderful today?
It's so crazy to hear them say that, oh, we do this all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's just such a wonderful blessing from God, modern medicine.
Yes.
And then in the midst of that all, her husband, who is in his 30s, has been dealing, or I guess should say past tense now,
at
but
this point,
during their marriage dealt with kidney failure.
Yes.
Until they were both completely failing. He was on dialysis and needed a kidney transplant, and thank the Lord, God provided one, and he actually has had a kidney transplant, but even that is a whole process.
Yes.
So we're going to get into some of that.
All the medical excitement.
Yes. And talk about what hospitality looks like in those situations. And I am really excited to hear her perspective of what it was like to receive hospitality and some of the types of hospitality that ministered the most to their family. Because I feel like a lot of times we see those situations and it is so overwhelming. And maybe in the situation, the mom is being life flighted and dad is still trying to work, or he's going up there and coming back. Sometimes you don't know what to do or what the most helpful thing is to do. So we're going to try to get into some of that.
Sounds good.
You jump in and tell us a little bit more about your family and a little bit more about your situation.
Yes. So we knew before Eric and I even started dating that he had issues, a kidney disease, that it's an autoimmune disease that he had no symptoms of, but they just found it when he was going off of his parents' insurance. They did a full workup and kind of stumbled across it, and he was already at 30% kidney function,
and this was on
and didn't know it. No, on both total kidney function was at 30%. Yes, so he went vegan for a couple years. So I ended up marrying him when he was a vegan, which was a trial for me, as I love to cook, and I knew nothing about being vegan, and so that was exciting. But he was able to kind of stabilize the function for a little while that way. But he's a big guy. He's 6'4", and keeping any weight on as a vegan was really difficult. So eventually his kidney specialist was like, this isn't going to do enough good for you. in order to balance out not having protein from animals. So she was like, you need to get back to eating, white meat, something that's easier on the kidneys to process. And then he just slowly kept losing function throughout our marriage. And then, what was it? I guess 2 years ago, he was dealing with a lot of brain fog, which we weren't really noticing right away.
Especially if it comes on gradually.
Yeah,
you start
it came
to kind
on.
of adjust to the new normal.
It had probably been coming on for years. And then he also was dealing with some swelling and things like that. And so he ended up needing to switch jobs because the brain fog was making it difficult for him to continue in his work. And so God provided a job with UPS, and he started that, and it was a part-time job. And at the same time, we found out we were pregnant with our fourth baby, which is always exciting to switch jobs and do that at the same time. And then his kidneys completely failed. So he went from, I think he was at like 20% down to 3%. Very suddenly. Apparently his autoimmune disease it's triggered by viruses. So he got a cold or something, and it really, really triggered an issue with the autoimmune disease, and he dropped function. So it was kind of emergent, even though he was monitored closely with his kidney specialist. So all of a sudden he was needing dialysis right away. And that was really wild and pretty.
So before that, he wasn't doing dialysis?
No, he wasn't on dialysis. He was on different medications to deal with all the side effects. But kidney failure is just kind of like, it's going to happen. They can't stop it from happening, really, especially his autoimmune disease. And so he was just kind of like on medications that helped with the symptoms, manage the symptoms. So he ended up needing dialysis emergently. He had just started this new job. Our tenants, because we have a duplex, our tenants had decided to move out. So we were turning the upstairs into an Airbnb to help with bills.
Yes.
And so it was all a big time of transition, and we didn't really know what God was doing, and we were kind of worried, obviously,
how
about
are we
what was
actually
going
making
on.
it through this trial?
Yes, exactly. And so he ended up on dialysis, and that helped stabilize him. But dialysis is really rough on your body, especially the hemodialysis, where they pull blood out of you and it goes through a machine and it gets pumped back into you clean because the machine cleans it, which is just wild. But it takes a toll. And every time he came, dialysis was 3 times a week for 4 hours, and he would go to the clinic and be there for that long.
That's a lot of time.
Yeah, it's a job basically. And then once he got home, he was kind of shot for the rest of the evening. Like he just needed to go to sleep and kind of sleep it off because the symptoms were pretty rough usually.
So was he even able to work during that time?
He did. He worked a 4 a.m. to 8 a.m. UPS shift. Yeah, he worked so hard. I still don't know exactly how he did it. And
that's incredible.
Yeah, and he still is working there now. And the guys that he works with are like, you were doing what? Like, I don't think they even realized exactly what he was going through.
Yeah, soldiered on. And
yeah, he definitely did.
Game face and didn't let everybody know.
Exactly. Like you don't just shake hands in the morning and say, "Morning, I've got dialysis later." It didn't really come up. But yeah, so he was doing that, and that was totally God's provision. Like we wouldn't have searched out UPS. It just kind of came up in a job search when he was looking for something, and it ended up being, even as a part-time employee, full benefits. It paid for every medical trial that came up after that. Everything was covered, which we could not have planned for.
Right.
And it was just such a miracle because I was pregnant with Titus, our youngest. We didn't know anything was wrong with him.
Oh,
and
then
they even told us.
Heart surgery.
Yeah. They told us that they should have caught it on the 20-week ultrasound. And it should have showed up. But it was a huge blessing from God that it didn't, because he was totally stable. Labor and delivery was super uncomplicated, and he tolerated it really well. And they just they discovered an issue with him the day after he was born when he didn't pass a screening. So it wasn't even that he was really struggling. They just were like, oh, his oxygenation is kind of weird. So they sent us up to Spokane. Yeah, they sent us up to Sacred Heart, and they did an echo and, took a look at his heart, and they were like, oh, he needs surgery. And they were convinced he was going to need it within the first week, because they thought that his aortic arch was actually pinched off, which would mean that once babies have a little hole in their heart, or like a little bypass of the aortic arch while they're in utero, because they don't need to oxygenate it that way, because it's oxygenated from mom,
Okay.
So it's just the way it circulates in utero. But that bypass closes up 3 to 5 days after birth.
Okay.
So they were just waiting for it to close up. And they were like, if that closes up, and that's how he's been compensating with that possibly. So that's the only time we'll know if the aortic arch needs surgery. So they kept us there for a week, and they kept doing echoes, and they were like, it's not an issue yet. Like, he's still doing fine. Don't know why. And I was like, I know why. We're praying for him. Everyone's praying for him, and he's fine, and we'll get to go home. And so we did end up getting to go home and wait till he was 4 months old, let him get a little bigger before they had to do the heart surgery. It was a blessing, because recovery is just so much easier for babies if they've got a little bit bigger, a little stronger. Yeah. So yeah, we were blessed by that. But not knowing that was going on while Eric was tanking was really a blessing, because there would have just been extra stress. Yeah. It would have just been, it would have just been piling on the anxiety, you know, and we got to just deal with it when it came up, you know, instead of thinking about it.
And you can see him. He's there.
Yes.
And he's stable.
And he's doing well.
So it's maybe a little less worrisome.
Yes, for sure.
So in the middle of all of that, of course, his kidneys are tanking. He's on dialysis, and he's on a transplant list.
Yes.
And I remember the church praying, well, continually he's been on our prayer list, but multiple times an actual kidney would come up.
Yes.
And it would seem like, okay, a donor's been found, a match has been found, we're praying for, and then it would fall through.
Yes.
How many times did that happen?
It fell through 4 times.
Yeah.
Yes.
I remember it being multiple.
Yeah. There were 3 calls for a deceased donor that was a match for him. And then there was 1 possible living donor that ended up like going through the whole testing process, and it was looking great. And then it fell through at the very end, which we're grateful for that it didn't work out that way, because I think Eric was a little nervous about having someone he cared about giving a kidney. You know, it's a big surgery and commitment.
It's a lifetime.
Yeah, exactly.
Commitment to take out 1 kidney.
Exactly.
One.
Exactly. So, but he was on the list for about only like 4 months before we got our first call, which we were just shocked by, because they had told us the wait time is usually 3 to 5 years average.
Really?
Yes. And so he got his first call, and we were just like, what is happening? This is crazy. And then they were like, well, you're in the backup position. So basically they have a couple people that are a match usually for the deceased donor kidney. But if the first person comes in for transplant and then tests positive for a cold or COVID or something like that, then they won't get the kidney, because they won't allow them. They don't want their immune system compromised in any way. And then to be put on immunosuppressants, it could just cause all sorts of issues. So they always have someone in a backup position in case it falls through. So we were in the backup position, but we didn't realize, we were just like buzzing because you got the kidney call, that's crazy. And then it fell through. And we were like, okay, that's all right. Like,
we were just backup.
Yes, exactly. And so then I'm looking up.
the main quarterback.
Exactly. And so I had joined all these Facebook groups because I wanted to read about all of the possible scenarios and what other people were going through. Eric didn't want to read a single thing about it, because
it's just to put his head down, go to work, come home, play with his boys.
Exactly. He did not want to think about all the possibilities of things that are going wrong or symptoms people were dealing with. So I was a little more on the like, oh, gotta know what's happening. And so that's when I looked up and realized that people commonly get 3 to 4 to 5 calls before it actually is the one. It's very rare that it happens at the very first call. So it's
actually good to adjust your mind correctly.
Right. The expectations.
If you don't, that's when you fall the farthest, I think.
Oh, yeah. You just get so disappointed.
Your mind, that was a good thing to say, you know what, on call number 2, I'm not going to get my hopes up.
Right. Yes.
If it is going to go through, God knows that, but I'm not going to be disappointed if it doesn't. Just be ready for that process a few times.
And for sure, for each call, it was kind of like we learned something with each call about just how to prepare ourselves, because it was very much a like, in the next 24 hours, you'll be in surgery and then you'll be out for a couple weeks. And we have 4 kids. So how do we get them to family who's going to watch them while we're gone and things like, so it's kind of like we had a few trial runs of like lining people up and having a plan in order. So the second one fell through as well. I think the doctor just didn't like how that kidney looked. It just wasn't healthy enough. I don't think it was spilling protein or something. So
and we want something very healthy for a 30-year-old.
Yeah, we were glad the doctor was picky, of course. So, and then the third one was around Christmas time, and it was after the living donor had fallen through. So this was technically the 4th possible answer to prayer there. And that one, they told us, and I had kind of wished that they hadn't told us, but it was good for us to go through it, I guess. They told us, oh, this was a great kidney. And it was the first time the team on the phone was like, this is such a great match. Like usually they didn't sell it like that. Usually they were wanting to manage your expectations too. But this time they were really like, wow, this will just be great. And then the doctor, or it was injured during harvesting. It's such a strange topic to talk about. It feels kind of cold to be like, while it was being removed, it was injured in the surgery. So that's why he didn't get that one. And that was like, oh, I wish you hadn't told us that. Honestly, like I wish you would have just said, oh, it didn't. Error. Yeah, exactly. And then I think that was the first time it crossed my mind, like, wait, they could mess up while putting it in, Eric. Like, wait a second. And I started to be a little more, I was like, oh no, like I hadn't thought about that aspect of it. We had been very much of the mind, like, well, you need this. You can't just hang out on dialysis, because he really didn't handle dialysis well. So it was just, and they talk about how kidney transplant is just it's not a cure, it's a treatment for kidney failure, because you're just on a different set of medications for your entire life.
Because he's currently he had to be on anti-rejection medicines.
He'll be on those his whole life.
Pressure medicines. And other things too, I guess.
Yeah, there's all sorts of, they have kind of a cocktail of anti-rejection meds.
I didn't realize it was your whole life. I thought it was maybe for a time.
Yeah, they wean him down over a while. For a while there, he was taking whole handfuls of meds morning and evening. You know, it was kind of a crazy
And
crazy
is it just
thing.
one kidney that he
received one kidney.
Okay.
Yeah. So he left his native kidneys. They're still hanging out in there.
Really?
Not doing much, but they're there. And then he's got the extra kidney now. So he's got 3 kidneys in there.
I didn't know that was possible.
Yeah, there's so much that people are like, oh, I didn't know that. We wouldn't have known it either.
Replace one, somehow they'd
Yep.
wire it in.
Yes. They don't mess with the ones that are already in there, because that's another thing to recover from if you're having something removed as well, so they just leave them there as long as they're not causing any trouble. Then it was a big gap. And that was the other thing that was odd, because I was reading up on everybody's common experiences, and people were like, oh, once I started getting calls, they would happen like every 3 weeks, like they would be like 2 weeks apart or 4 weeks apart. And they were just kind of coming because you were near the top of the list, even though it's not like a one, single file line for the kidney. It's kind of a pool of people, because it's all about right match,
Yes.
So I kept thinking, oh, we got a call, so they're just going to keep coming. And then they were like months in between them. So that was really an odd aspect to the waiting, and just taught us a lot of patience. But after the Christmas time call, we got into February, and Eric was starting to feel like, okay, this is really wearing on me. There were just days that he was like, I've really got to work through this. And it was really hard. And yeah, just the waiting and not knowing what was coming was really difficult. And then I think he finally, which I was kind of treating it as like, we're just plugging along.
Yeah.
This is what's in front of us. We're doing it. And Eric had been feeling a little more like, I thought it was coming. And I was just waiting in a waiting pattern in his mind. And then all of a sudden he was like, I got to just treat this like this is what we're doing.
Right.
Like, this is where I'm at. And we're doing dialysis, and we're doing the part-time job and the Airbnb. And that's how life is working right now.
This is life.
Yeah. And he settled into that finally. And he told me about it. He's like, this is what I'm doing mentally. And I was like, oh, I thought that's what we were doing. and then I think like 3 days later, we got the call. That was the actual call. So
that's incredible.
I was like, that's so funny that was
God's
like
timing.
What God needed.
Working in both of you.
Yes, exactly.
Well, Micaiah has done some social media posts over that time. And one of the ones she posted, I'm going to read, and we're going to talk a little bit about just some of the ways that God helped you, in ways that you can trust God when you're in a trial like that, and then go into hospitality aspects.
Yes, sounds good.
So she says, life over the past year has looked different for us than it does for most young families. Since his kidneys failed, Eric's day-to-day has included ER visits, hospital stays, a couple helicopter rides, so many hours in the dialysis chair, and countless needle pokes and blood draws. Throughout all of it, I have watched him continue to faithfully teach our boys. He has shown them what it means to work hard by providing for us, even when his body was literally shutting down. He has shown them how to pray continually about little inconveniences and big problems. He has been an example of gratitude in all things. He regularly reminds us how much God has blessed us, and he could not be more right. And you posted a verse from Psalm 34 that says, "In every time I'll always bless the Lord. His praise will ever be within my mouth. Oh, taste and see the Lord is good. How happy is the man who trusts in him." And then one more From Psalm 27, I would have lost heart unless I had believed that I would see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Wait on the Lord, be of good courage, and he will strengthen your heart. Wait, I say, on the Lord. And I think that speaks to one of the hardest things for us to do when we're in a trial. Waiting and waiting and waiting, because in a trial, it seems like forever. And sometimes it is years. So to see that faithful example in your husband and, of course, in yourself just is such an encouragement to me, and I know to others who are going through trials. In the verses you posted, of course, the Psalms especially are just the greatest encouragement in trials. Go to the Psalms if you are in a trial, and there is a psalm there that will strengthen and encourage your heart.
For sure.
What is an encouragement you would give to people who are in trials to look to the Lord and to wait on the Lord and to really have faith that he still cares for you, that he's taking care of you, and to have hope that that is true? What would you say, having been through all of what you've been through?
I think it really helped me just to know and realize that it really is a story that God's telling with your life. It's not really about how you're going to fix anything or about what you do next is going to make or break the situation, because God's got a plan. I think it was shocking to me to realize just how much what was happening in our lives was affecting people around us, people we didn't even really know, people who were just like part of the praying community here and keeping up with what God was doing with us. And it was just such an encouragement to all them, which seemed, in my head at the time, I was very much like, well, I just don't know what else I would do, because people would be like, wow, you're just doing this so well. And I was always like, I don't know.
Like I am.
Either there were days that I was like, you don't know, like I'm not handling this well at all. Or there were days, most of the time when people said things like that, I just had the reaction where it was, well, it's either, trust God or curse him and die. Like those are the only two options.
Right.
There's no really middle ground in those sorts of situations. And so I was not really understanding how that could be such an encouragement to people, because I was greatly encouraged by people helping us and praying for us, obviously, because it was being applied to me and to my family. But I think more recently, just seeing other faithful Christians live out the gospel and live out just a faithful Christian walk on a bigger scale, just in our nation recently, and seeing how much that's affected the people around them, I started to be like, oh, this is how it works.
Yes.
That's how it could bless people to see you just being faithful and trusting God.
Because they, from an outside perspective, can see God's work in your life and can see God sustaining you.
Yeah, which is not of your own.
No.
Yeah, it's not of your own strength at all.
We're promised that we're going to have the grace we need in the moment we need it.
Yes, and not any sooner.
The grace is promised for when you need it, and when you need it and you're in it and have it, other people can see how you're being sustained.
Right.
And how you have God's strength. And it is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's miraculous. Yeah. And it was just such a sweet thing, because people were praying for us so specifically for so long. And it would be people online everywhere seeing our posts that we would share and updates. And then there were people in the church community I had never met and I didn't recognize them, or they'd come up to me and know my name from church emails and say, oh, we've been praying. What's the update? And I'd give them the update, and they would walk away, and I had people standing next to me and they'd be like, who's that? And I'd be like, I don't know. I don't know their name actually, but they know, and they know well enough to pray specifically. And I'm happy with that. We'll take all the prayers. Absolutely. And it was such a sweet thing to share the answered prayer once he did get the kidney in March.
The whole church celebrated.
It was amazing. It was so sweet.
We found out, I think it was on a Sunday.
It was on a Sunday. We were at church, and then we came home, and I was in the middle of making a cake, and it was a disaster for some reason. I had never had a cake flop so badly. And then he got the call, and then I was like, I can't even problem solve at this point because I'm so distracted. And I was like, this cake is going in the trash. And I was so happy that I had a very real excuse to not have to put it out.
Early on Sunday?
No, it was in the middle of the day at noon. And it was the first call that almost all the calls had been, tomorrow we'll tell you if you get it, and you just need to be ready tomorrow to come up. And this one was like, in 4 hours, drive up here. Okay. It was much quicker.
It must have been the next Sunday then.
Yes.
Because I remember being at church and seeing his mom.
Yeah.
And it was just palpable. The whole room was rejoicing.
It was amazing.
Because, of course, there was a prayer, but instead of a prayer, a petition prayer, it was a prayer of thanksgiving that you have provided a kidney, because by then he'd had the surgery. And I remember thinking, I'm going to go hug his mom.
Yeah.
And as soon as church was over, she was surrounded.
Oh, yeah. There was no room. there was no room.
It's okay. I'll just let her know later. Yeah. But it was incredible to be a part of that. And it is true when you see those people who are being sustained by God and given his strength, you recognize it's not a human reaction.
No.
Because
we wouldn't choose it.
No.
Yeah.
In our natural human nature, we continually fight against being impatient, grumbling, anger, questioning,
discontent.
God, discontent. Yeah. We fight against those things all the time, every day. So to see someone who is not doing that, who is cheerfully walking in a trial and cheerfully thanking God for all of the blessings that they have in spite of this trial is wonderful. So moving on to hospitality, I know you said so many strangers came up to you and were praying for you. And of course, that was true. I mean, hundreds, potentially thousands of people were continually praying for months and years for your family. That is a very powerful thing to do and very needed. And that is a form of hospitality of saying, I'm praying for you, and you're actually doing it.
Right.
You want to make sure that's not just a trite phrase that you say, like, our family's praying for you, I'm praying for you, unless you actually are doing that.
Yes.
But that's one way. What are other ways that people saw your trial and ministered to you in practical ways?
Well, we definitely had meals. More meals than we knew what to do with at times. You know, there were lulls in kind of the intensity of the trial, I guess. You know, there were times that were very kind of day to day, and I was doing most of the normal life stuff. But then, like you read in that post that I had shared, there was quite a few sudden ER visits. Our baby was 3 weeks old, and he ended up needing to be intubated and life flighted, and we were in the ICU, and that was a whole just shocking thing. And so we've had so many people who are willing to, I'll pick up your oldest from school for you because suddenly you're not in town anymore. like in the middle of the day, you're just going to poof and be gone in the hospital. So things like that, where it's just like, you need your kids to come play at my house for a little bit so that you can go to an appointment or you can get something done with Eric. And those sorts of things were huge blessings. And then there are always some like little tiny things that are just kind of very specific and kind of funny. When we were in the hospital with Titus for his open heart surgery, it was the very first week of school almost, it was right before school started. So I'm waiting for him to get out of surgery. It's like a 6-hour thing. And I'm labeling my child's crayons for his school, for him to drop him off to school. And then my friend picked him up and took him back to town because I couldn't. And so she's like carrying all the crayons and markers back to town for me. And like such a specific little thing that's so funny, but necessary. It was great. And it kept me busy during surgery, which was great. But yeah, so many meals, and I got so many Square Cashes or Cash App, whatever it is, for coffees because coffee in the hospital is very pricey. Yes. Very pricey. And I was living off of it for quite a while there. And just those little things were so helpful. I even had former NICU nurses from when I was in the NICU with my oldest, 7 years ago, sending us money for dinner while we were in Spokane after his transplant, because we stayed in Spokane near the hospital for 2.5 weeks because he had appointments like every other day. So it didn't make
they even know you were there?
I had posted that he got his kidney, and so I was kind of updating on his recovery. She had kept up with us on Facebook because she liked to see how Graham was doing. And so she had messaged me a few times, with Titus and all these other things. She had been like praying for you guys, and it was so sweet. And then she just messaged me and was like, "Hey, are you still in Spokane?" And I said, "Yes." And she was like, "Well, give me your Cash App so I can send you money for dinner." And she was so generous. It was way more than we would have spent on dinner. I was like, "What? How?" And it's not even someone that I'm keeping up with outside of these updates, and it was just a really kind
about you in a practical way to minister to you and to do something that would be needed at that moment.
Yeah, when people come to you with like, "I want to do this specific thing for you," was always such a gift, because we really did have more offers of help than we knew what to do with, and my brain was never able to be like, we had our basics covered. We would have like the kids taken care of because we have so much family in town, so they would be situated, and we had plans for those. And then we'd had so many people being like, "How do I help you?" Which is so sweet, and we were so thankful for it. But I didn't always have the capacity to feel like, I do need this one thing.
To be a manager of this whole scene.
Yeah. So when people came and were like, I want to do this thing, where do I send this to? Or I'm dropping this off now. You don't have to talk to me. Just it's there, which was so sweet when people would do that sort of thing.
I think you've hit on a very key topic.
Yes.
Of course you want to say what it's okay to say.
Oh, yeah.
What do you need?
Never offended.
Here. Nobody's ever going to be offended.
No.
But it can be even more helpful to just think through.
Yes.
I know for me, I try to think if I were in that situation, which of course you're not, and it's not like you're saying you can fully understand what it's like to be walking in that trial. But if I were in that situation, what is something that I might need?
Right.
And so, of course, meals, coffee, childcare. Just think of practical things. I remember when my mom died and we were planning her funeral. Of course, it was just this overwhelming thing with 5 little children.
Yes.
And I had a friend who said, I want you to look at your kids' wardrobe real quick, shoes, clothes, and whatever they're missing, I'm going to go out and buy.
So sweet.
I can even pick them up and I'll take them shopping.
Yeah. Go fit it on them.
Exact sizes or whatever. And I didn't even know in that moment that I needed that.
Right.
And so we probably would have come down to the day before or the day of and realized, nope,
we don't have a suit jacket for somebody
exactly wrong color.
No belt. Yeah.
No belt. This doesn't fit. The shoes we can't even squish into anymore. They don't even have dress shoes. So she picked up, I don't remember how many little kids, maybe 2 or 3, the ones that needed to wear things.
Yes.
And she was gone for half a day.
That's amazing.
And somebody came home with a little suit coat and somebody came home with shoes and somebody had a belt.
Right.
It was incredible.
Right.
And I would not have asked for that.
Like what a relief that you didn't even know you needed to be relieved.
Exactly. Yes. And so being able to offer something very practical is a huge blessing, and it takes such a weight off of the person that's in that trial.
Yes.
Before we move forward, a big thank you to the sponsors for supporting today's episode. Have you ever thought about how much science is involved in cooking? Chemistry, physics, and biology are at play all over your kitchen. On the cutting board, in the mixing bowl, on the stovetop, and in the oven. Inquisicook is on a mission to show students that science can be relevant, fascinating, and delicious, all while teaching an essential life skill. Inquisicook begins with the basics of food science and culinary arts, then adds skills and concepts in a carefully crafted sequence that leads to proficiency. Best of all, the principles can be applied to any cuisine, any available foods, and any dietary restrictions. So when it's time for people to come over for dinner, the options are endless. Visit inquisicook.com to view sample lessons, then check out the recipe gallery to see just how crave-worthy science can be. Pure and Lovely Tallow began with one mom's desire to find non-toxic and effective skincare that was safe for her whole family. That's when she discovered tallow, simple, nourishing, and incredibly healing for your skin. Each product is handcrafted in small batches with just a handful of wholesome ingredients, using organic and grass-fed tallow sourced from small Minnesota farms. Nothing more, nothing toxic, just the way skincare should be. Whether it's everyday moisture, calming an eczema flare-up, treating your baby's diaper rash, or soothing hard-working hands, Pure and Lovely Tallow is made for the whole family. Check out their whipped tallow, deodorant, lip balms, and more at pureandlovelytallow.com. And because you're listening here, use code BESS for 10% off at checkout.
Yes, and I definitely have had situations where the hospital has a whole bunch of things that they are like, here's a care package for you, which is so sweet, especially in my situations in the NICU with little babies. I think because they know, like, you're postpartum, you need it as much as you need the support for your baby. You need some support for you. Mm-hmm. And it's so sweet of people to donate towards those sorts of things. But I had some friends who were like, what sort of clothing item do you need? When I was in with Graham, I was 3 months early, so I hadn't got postpartum clothes or anything at that point.
Right.
But I had also like swollen up like a balloon. So nothing fit. I couldn't fit in anything. So my sisters-in-laws, they went to Target together and brought me a whole bunch of stuff. And I was like, this is the best. And all of it's so comfy. And, you know, you're in the hospital, you're not feeling great or looking nice.
You
And
just
so it
need
was
something comfortable that fits where you don't feel terrible about what you're wearing.
And so that even happened again when I was in the hospital with Titus, because it was like, oh, my feet have swollen up. I can't fit in the one pair of shoes that I came up here with. And I have had a friend in Spokane that was like, what do you need? And I was like, could you get me a pair of shoes from just some slides that I could wear around the hospital? And
Which
she
is
did.
not
She brought
something
it.
Someone would guess.
Exactly.
So asking that question is sometimes there is an answer.
That's something I might offer to postpartum moms because I've been there myself now.
You need some comfy shoes.
Yeah. And I have sent some slides to people in the hospital before, or like a postpartum nightgown or something just comfy for after. And once you've been in hospitals frequently, you're like, oh, it's a dry place. You need some lotion. You need some chapstick.
You know
and like,
what's needed.
Otherwise, you're going to just dry up.
Yes.
Yeah. So those sorts of things are very practical and helpful. And yeah, just little tips that you figure out having been there for a while. So, yeah.
I would say also from the giving end, like if you're trying to do something, don't be offended if you do offer and it's not immediately received in the way that you're expecting. Like you feel, sometimes you like, well, I'm going to do something.
Yes.
I'm going to offer. What do you need?
Yes.
And then it could be the person's, like we've already mentioned, I don't know. And a lot of times it could be something that they're saying because they're so overwhelmed with the trial. Like, I think we're fine. I think everything's covered. Good. I can't think of anything.
Yeah.
Which may or may not be really true.
Right.
It just could be that they can't come up with a
coming
solution
up with
right
an
now.
idea of like how to fill a gap or something.
Or
you wouldn't know.
maybe that particular need that you had in mind has been covered.
Yes.
Like, I want to help with meals. Well, the meal train is completely full for 3 weeks or whatever.
Oh, pro tip for the meal trains being full. Drop by at breakfast. That's what I've done. Bake an oatmeal. Like I do baked oatmeals. Yeah. Drop it off with some berries. Because mornings are just as busy as other times. And having a breakfast that's readily available is always, so I always do that whenever I've missed the meal train being filled up.
That's such a blessing. And most of those things can be frozen.
Oh,
if
yeah.
There's
So
too much,
easy.
Anything breakfast oftentimes can be frozen.
Yeah.
I've even made pancakes and waffles.
Oh, yeah.
And fully cooked. With the waffles, you can par cook them.
Yeah, kind of underdo it.
Before. Yeah, if you're going to put them in a toaster or something, and then it makes them not dried out. But you can put those fully cooked in between layers of wax paper, or not wax paper, parchment paper. Parchment paper. And you just pull out a pancake, pop it in the toaster. If you have a big family, you can use the oven and do lots at once. But it's kind of amazing.
It is. It's so nice. Yes.
For a mom
definitely,
with kids.
I did that recently for a friend who had been in the hospital the night before with a baby, and an email hadn't even gone out because it was kind of like they were there and then they came home the same day and everything was fine. But I just knew about it because we share rides to school and stuff. But I was baking oatmeal for my own family anyway. So I was like, very easy to double the recipe. I've got some aluminum foil pans just in my pantry. So just made her one and put it on her doorstep and then texted her. Like, you don't even need to small talk. Like your food is there. Yeah, porch. Exactly. Just a little elf in the night. Here's an oatmeal, which was really nice.
So nice.
Yeah.
Well, that's another thing I was going to go back to. So it's great to ask and it's great to try to think of things. If your original idea is not initially accepted or needed, pivot and think of something else. Like, don't get offended or think, well, I guess I'm not needed. If you really feel like I have the time and the burden, I really do want to do something. If they don't need a dinner, pivot to breakfast. If they don't need any childcare, think about a coffee card. And my encouragement is to do something.
Yes.
Do something.
Yeah.
If you know the person, if the person's in your church, or if you feel a burden to do something, then if God's laying that on your heart, do something, find something. And yes, sometimes it can be, I am praying for you. Or it could be encouraging texts or
verses, songs that you were listening to. Yeah.
Psalms.
Yes.
Just ways to encourage that person, a card in the mail. There are small, tiny ways and big ways.
Yes.
And so do something.
Yes.
Don't just put it off in let the trial pass and you didn't actually participate in ministering to the body of Christ.
Yes. Yep.
Are there any things that we missed? Do you have any other ways that you would say in a trial, this was something that really helped us? Or have we kind of covered them all?
There are aspects to it where this is what we liked, and not everyone in a trial might enjoy it. We always greatly enjoyed just people chatting with us, so there were times when I was in the hospital and just someone stopping by who was also in the hospital, because we had some overlap with people who weren't close friends, but we knew of them, or we knew of the prayer request, and we were in the same hospital. So a friend would stop by and sit next to my baby's bed with me and with a coffee, and we'd just talk about their situation and our situation and just kind of share that a little bit. That's actually happened every time I've been in the hospital, I think, where there's been like overlap with someone, a Christian we knew. So that's always helpful for me, at least. And I think Eric also really enjoyed that, just to have someone to kind of share the trials with and just encourage each other, because I think there's a little more camaraderie in that sort of scenario where it's like you're really like you kind of get it in a different way than some people do. So that's something we were encouraged by for sure. And I think that was another scenario where we would see how we're being encouraged by that person going through a trial. So it was kind of getting the same thing that people were getting from us in that situation. And yeah, I think that would be one of the other big things. And going to church still wherever we were, that was really helpful for us, especially when we were up in Spokane for 3 months with Graham. It was like, okay, we're here for a while. And so we started going to church up there and just got kind of plugged in. They knew, like, it was a pretty small congregation. So they looked around, they're like, hi, like, what are you doing? Why are you here? And we'd be like, well, we just had a baby. And they're like, so where's the baby?
Right.
Which was interesting.
Did you forget him in the car?
Exactly. Like, shouldn't he be with you? And so those people have been, they've been praying with us for all of the things since then, because they were praying with us for Graham. So they've stuck around and prayed for all the other things too, which has been so sweet. But
yes.
Yeah, made some friends there. Absolutely. For sure.
What is one of the best ways when you're in a trial like that for people to communicate with you? Is it too much to have a lot of people blowing up your phone, texting you, emailing you? Or was that the way you liked communicating with people? Or would they communicate through a family member, like a brother or sister, mom, dad? How did that work best for your family?
Yeah, so we kind of probably a hybrid model of these things. We definitely got a lot of text messages. And I know specifically Eric, he was getting lots of text messages that I think he read a lot of them, obviously being the patient. Like, you're not going to be lucid enough for a while to go back and respond to all these things. But he was seeing them, which was a blessing and an encouragement, of course. And then I was doing a lot more, like responding with a quick thank you to certain things. I loved to say that I saw it. It was great to see these things. And then when people are asking about details, I did just have a note, copy paste text, and I don't think people were offended by it. I don't mind getting the copy paste text
especially if you are trying to give that person an update, but that's the 50th update that day. You would spend your entire time looking down at your phone texting if you tried to do a new one every time.
Exactly. And it's changing 4 times within one day. So it would really be something to keep up with all that. So we had our different family texts, my side of the family text and Eric's side of the family text, and we'd send updates to that. And we had our close friends group too that we would send, kind of copy paste the same thing to all those, which would usually include a few more details than to the general populace or anything. But then my brother-in-law, Eric's oldest brother, actually, he reached out to me, I think probably when Eric had his like ICU scare while he was on dialysis. We had gone into the ER in the kind of the middle of the night, like early morning. So my family had come over to watch our kids, and his parents were out of town. They had gone on this really fun trip out to the ocean somewhere. I can't remember, the British Virgin Islands or something, with some friends of theirs. We were like, finally, like, please go on a trip, because they had been taking such good care of us for so long. I was like, you deserve it. Like, go have, I think we had some other crisis. Oh, Titus had been born. So they had watched our kids while I was in the NICU with Titus. It was a whole thing. So they had done so much work. And then they were like, should we still go on vacation? I was like, yes, please go on vacation.
You deserve a vacation.
You have earned it. And then they had been gone for 2 days, and then Eric's in the ICU. And I was, instead of texting the family chat, I was texting his siblings, because I was like, I don't want to freak out mom and dad. Yeah, I was like, I don't want to do it. And then I think once I texted, they're intubating him, Brian, his oldest brother, was like, that's it. I'm texting mom and dad. And I was like, oh no, like I was trying.
Just
trying
tell them
not
to fly
like,
back.
don't fly back. It'll be fine. We'll keep you updated. But it does sound very scary when they're like, now we're going to intubate him. And it was like, I was standing next to him. He had been talking. And then all of a sudden, it was very scary. It was not a good situation. Thankfully, this is a side, a tangent, but the helicopter crew who came, which their job is fantastic to me. I think it's so interesting what they do and so amazing. But the helicopter crew that came to take care of him, the gal there was his nursing instructor from when he went through nursing school years and years ago. So she didn't even process who he was at first, looked at his paperwork and then spun around and was like, Eric, what's wrong with you? What's happening? And she was so kind of like, and I was happy to know like, oh, you know him, like you'll take really, obviously they'll always take good care of him. But that was kind of nice to have a familiar face. Yeah, a familiar face around. So then Brian kind of started taking over the broader updates. He would be like, do you want me to put together a prayer request and send a prayer request email? And that was always very, very nice because for the family texts and the friend updates, I would be kind of like bullet points, like here's this, and this. It wasn't flowery. Whenever I did send an email to the church, I wanted to be very like, thank you so much for what you've done so far, like, and how you've encouraged us and blessed us and taken care of us. But it wasn't in the midst of whatever crisis was happening. That was, and mental capacity. Yeah. So for him to take that over was always, he would be like, do you just want me to update the church? And I'd be like, yes, please do. Because he always knew. Yeah. He always knew what was going on. And then he put it into a well-worded, please pray specifically for these things. And here's the update so far. So that was really helpful.
I do remember those emails and I appreciated them because it did give us some details and how to pray. And he always signed it, Brian for the Shaws or something like that.
Yeah, he did.
And so you knew it was his brother.
Yeah.
But it was a way that he could help your family.
Right. Yes.
And that was also neat
kind
to
of press
see.
Secretary for us. We had another friend that kind of felt that way, where it was just people kind of knew who were closer to the situation. And I'm sure our parents and our siblings also got a lot of stops on the street. Like, hey, what's happening with your brother-in-law? And my sister had a funny story where she was at some party and chatting with someone about European adventures and travels. And then some other lady came over and was like, how is your brother-in-law doing? And then Abby got very serious all of a sudden. She's like, yeah, well, it's been really rough. And so like it got very serious. The tone got really, really somber because it was before transplant. I think it was probably when things were pretty wild there.
Crisis was
and
happening.
they were like, well, I'm praying for you. They went through that. And then she left and then she turned back to her friend. She's like, so in Greece this summer, just like snapped right back and forth. And I was like, it seems a little cold, but really it's just that this is normal life and we're pretty practical people. And so it's just like, this is the update. And then I'll go back to my conversation.
Yep. Rough times. Another encouragement that I think I'm hearing through all of this is to give freely. And so we talked about that some with just your efforts. What can I do? But also whenever you text someone or send a message, you may not get a response and expect that.
Yes.
Because it's crazy times.
It really is.
Up at the hospital.
Yes.
Emotionally, it's physically draining. And it could be the time, too. You may have doctors and coming in and nurses, and this person's asking you questions, and you have to fill this paperwork out or whatever. But know that you're giving something. Don't expect anything in return.
Right.
You may get a thank you, and that's great. But even that may be too much at the time.
It's true.
For
there
you
have
to try to do a thank you to every single person that sends something.
Yes, there have been times where I've gone to text someone months later about something else, and then I pull up their name, and the last thing that happened in our conversation was them asking something or saying something, and I just never got back to it. And I was like, sorry about that, but I did see it, and it was encouraging.
Well, and that's the thing. A person does have their phone and their computer and all that.
It's around.
So at some point, they will see it and be encouraged just for the fact that you're thinking about them and remembering them or saying, I'm praying for you, or the Bible verse or the encouraging words. They will see it.
Oh, yes.
But don't expect that you're going to have a little nugget in return,
a
little gift in return,
a little conversation for back and forth for a while. It won't always happen.
No, human nature, we do love to be appreciated,
right?
And
the reciprocation,
love to feel that camaraderie or friendship or a reciprocal text back or thought back, or just to even know that they heard what you said. That's human nature.
Yes.
But you have to deny that.
Yes,
I think
for
in
sure.
situations.
Right.
Giving when the person can't give back.
Yes.
Which we've talked a lot about before in other forms of hospitality.
Exactly.
That is a challenge to our natural selves.
Human nature, yes.
We want to be thanked and appreciated.
Exactly. Tell me I did a good job.
Right.
Exactly.
It spurs us on, which is a good thing, but there are plenty of times when that is not what it's about, and you trust in God to further what you've done.
Right.
And know that He knows your heart.
Yes.
Okay, let's talk specifics about food. So this podcast is definitely about food.
Yes, and we love it.
love it. On comeoverfordinner.com, we post recipes and practical things that people recommend, like kitchen items or playlists or whatever. It will be there under her blog post. So we're going to jump into specific things. If you want to just mention some things that people brought you that were very helpful on a food train, or even now that you've been a part of that, what do you take to people in a trial? Or you can even say what you make when people come over, like just a favorite menu.
Yes.
So jump in and tell us all your food thoughts.
Yes, that's great. That sounds good. I always greatly appreciated people who brought, nice sides as well as the main with like a dessert for the kids. There were people who would bring like juice boxes for the kids, all these little treats that we obviously wouldn't be having on a Wednesday evening for no reason.
Right.
So that was always very fun for them, especially when it's after like a new baby was born, so it's like things have been a little bit weird, or when Eric wasn't feeling well, obviously too, it was like a treat, something special to have.
It brought the tone in the house up.
Yes.
It was more celebratory.
Yes. It was exciting to have something like that, or just like bread, things that are really filling. We've got 4 boys and they're little, but the appetites are kind of wild. And I think that there was always, they send in the meal train, this many people, this many little kids. And sometimes people are like, little kids, they'll eat, half of what an adult eats or a quarter of. And that's just not the case with our boys somehow. They're eating full meals.
Human garbage disposal.
Yes, exactly. So I always appreciated when there was rice included or something else that would fill them up. And that's what I always try to apply to other people. I think I probably send too much a lot of times, but it's like, well, put it in the freezer if you want to. But yeah, just like trying to beef it up. It was always very greatly appreciated. We even had someone bring a full-on cake as a dessert, like a small little cake, but I think it was this time of year because it was like an apple. I think it was Valerie once that brought it, and it was beautiful. It was so sweet. And Graham's birthday was the next day, so I think we even like just didn't bring it out, and then we were like, we stuck a candle in it the next day, and we're like, happy birthday, Graham, and I didn't have to make a cake. It was just like she didn't know. No, she just brought it because I think it was because our other son had just been born, and they're both September, so we just like applied it to Graham the next day, and it was perfect. I've got the cutest picture of him looking at the candle over it, and it's just the sweetest thing.
And what a load off of you.
Oh, such a load off. It was wonderful. So those little things, just people putting a little extra flair on it is always just very sweet, very sweet. And for me, when I give food to people, I usually try to have kind of like a menu for giving food that I settle on for the season, like, for summertime, this is kind of like my meal that I will take whenever. So I'm not picking different things every time because that becomes a little too much. So whenever I sign up for someone, I'm like, for the summer, I think I was doing these Greek meatballs every time, like every time I signed up for someone. And then I would just double it and we would have it ourselves so that it wasn't too much to handle.
That's a great idea because you don't have to go through all the time of trying to come up with a recipe and make a plan. You immediately know these are the ingredients I need.
Yep.
Go.
Yep, exactly. And then you pick a soup for the fall and winter season, and you just keep it pretty basic that way, which I really enjoyed because otherwise things get a little too creative, and then it makes it a way more unrealistic thing to do regularly. So if you want to do it regularly, you gotta simplify.
What are the sides that you do? Like if you were going to do fun things for kids, do you do juice boxes or do you try to do a dessert, or what?
Yeah.
What are some of the extras that you would add on?
Yeah, I've done like cookies before, and I don't know if I've done juice boxes. I've done little cans of soda, but like cans of soda in my head, I'm like, we split them ourselves. So maybe I was shortchanging people by sending not as many as there are children in the family, but so maybe that was my bad. And I've done like in the summer sent some popsicles and things like that are pretty easy to grab out of our freezer. So I wasn't even prepping anything, but it was on hand. So throw a few in there.
Kind of
Oh yeah. So fun. And And then for other sides, with the Greek meatballs, it was like rice isn't easy. And then make a tzatziki sauce. That's great. Everybody loves a dipping sauce. And then French fries, because that's what we always had when we had Greek food. The Greeks like their French fries.
I didn't know this.
Yes. And apparently I've weirded some people out by sending French fries with Greek meatballs. Yes.
Rice
but work. Yes, because we lived in Germany all through my high school years. We were in the military, so we lived there. And my dad and I went to Greece at one point. And Greek food is just very common in Germany. There's lots of Greek restaurants around. But they would serve like a Greek pita wrap, a Greek gyro with French fries in it with the meat.
Really?
And people don't know about that. And so when I do send French fries with them, I've had people text back like, "This was really yummy. Why with French fries?" Like, I'm confused. Yeah, we're all very happy, but what gives with the French fries? So that was pretty funny. But that's another thing that's like, it's a fun side, but I did just pull these out of the freezer. I did not make hand cut French fries or anything for this special. So you would just
cook them and
bake them and take them, and they're really good. Yeah, I do like the seasoned fries so that they've got a little bit of flair to them. And then with the tzatziki sauce, it's really
the kids
really yummy.
Would have been the happiest.
Oh
with
yeah,
the French fries.
Yeah, it's basically like chicken nuggets and fries.
Ever.
Yeah, it's basically chicken nuggets and French fries, but it's Greek meatballs.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was my summer one that I made.
Greek meatballs, rice, tzatziki sauce,
and French fries. Yeah. You could send some tomatoes and lettuce too if you wanted to like make a bowl of it and have all the fresh stuff with it. But
oh, that sounds so good. And then maybe cookies or something.
Yeah,
whatever
something simple for dessert. Yeah,
or popsicles or whatever. For the season.
Just throw it in.
That's a great menu.
Oh, thanks.
Do you have something different that you would make if people are coming into your home?
I do. We've recently been having people over again, especially this summer. We've been doing a lot of stuff outside in our yard because, like you read in my bio recently, we're a lot of DIY and construction, doing lots of projects in our house. So we were still having people over, even if those things weren't done. So that made eating outside much preferable, much more
a little safer.
Hospitality. Yeah. The hospitality was it looked a little nicer to be outside sometimes. It went so well the first time I did it that I did it a couple times after, where I hosted a brunch on Saturday instead of having an evening thing, because at this point, a lot of our friends have a lot of tiny children. So if you invite them over for dinner, it's pretty much bedtime, and so it's not like a sit around and chit chat. But if you're doing brunch in the yard, kids go play on the play set and have a great time, and adults can maybe chat. As long as the yellow jackets aren't too bad. That was the one problem that I kept coming across. But we got our traps up and we dealt with it. The other benefit of the brunch was there was so many aspects of it that I could do like days before. So the week leading up to it, I'd do, put this casserole together or, put these muffins together, and then they go in the fridge and then they'll get pulled out later. So it was very bite-sizable for me. I was able to do it in bite sizes, which was lovely.
A kid-friendly thing.
Oh, yeah. They love the
breakfast
food. Oh, yes. Yeah. And one of the things I would do would be I make muffins with pancake batter and breakfast sausage in them, like ground breakfast sausage. And then I blend cottage cheese into it because extra protein.
High protein.
Yes, we like to fill up with extra protein. And then maple syrup in it. And it's like the best breakfast muffins ever.
Okay, we're getting this recipe.
Yes.
What in the world?
So delicious. And people look at them like, what are these? And then you have to be like, they're savory.
Breakfast sausage in there.
They're so good.
But one bite would kind of be a little of everything.
Everything. And it's all, you can do it ahead of time. And then you can pull them out and either put them in the oven to warm them up again or just serve them. Just serve them room temp with some maple syrup to dip in if you want. But so yummy.
Amazing.
Yeah, they're just they hit the savory and sweet so well. I really enjoy them myself.
Yes.
And then I did an eggs Benedict casserole because we love eggs Benedict, but for a crowd it can be a little too much. Like that would be a lot of
doing
a little more intensive.
Sounds easy. And did you say you can make this ahead of time? Yeah,
you make it the night before, and then you pop it in the oven, and then it's got the hollandaise sauce, so that's always a fan favorite. And then I've recently been doing a lot of cinnamon rolls, but out of the deli pre-made pizza dough. So I get the pre-made pizza dough because we always do pizza.
At Winco?
Yes, Winco and Walmart both do them. But it's in the deli section of Winco where they've got all the pizza toppings and balls of pizza dough, and they're not expensive. And so we always do a family pizza night on Friday, and I get an extra thing of dough and turn that into cinnamon rolls for Sunday morning or for brunch sometime.
That would be so fast.
Oh, so fast. Because otherwise, I've done cinnamon rolls from scratch before.
Yes.
And it's just so much time for the dough. Just so much time. And rising and punching down and rising again and all this stuff. So, yeah.
Speaking
quite
of
the hack.
shortcuts and time savers, I mean, it is okay.
Yes.
Especially if you are in a trial, have a ton of little kids, and you're still wanting to have people over.
Yeah. And the boys are thrilled.
And the boys are
baked
happy.
goods.
Kids are happy.
Yes.
No one cares.
No one does not. Yeah, no one cares.
They're getting to come over and have their kids play with your kids in the yard and get to visit and catch up and see how Eric's doing. And
precisely. Yeah, it's so nice. That was the other benefit to hosting again, because there's so much of the small talk when you've gone through trials like this and everyone's been part of it. There's so much of the small talk where you're just kind of like repeating the same things over and over again. You can't even get to the other person. Usually you don't have enough time just in passing at church or like in the street downtown. They feel that you're the one who needs to be like, they want to know what's going on with you. And then I feel like, oh, I've talked to all these people recently, but I have no idea what's going on in their lives.
In your life.
Exactly.
And
we joked for a while that I needed to get like a QR code tattoo on my hand and just like have people scan it for the update. Like, just scan and listen and you'll hear the update, because I am just kind of like,
listen to it later and tell me about your life.
Exactly. I want to know what's going on with you.
It's funny that people, when they're not in the trial, from my perspective, for instance, like if it was me and you, I would feel like, I'm so unimportant.
Right.
Like
I totally understand.
On in my life is so unimportant.
Yes.
But it is true that the person in a trial wants to feel like they're in normal life,
right,
and in relationships and in keeping up with friendships and community. So it's fine for you to tell something about yourself.
Give a little update.
Give a story. Or something that's going on with you.
Yeah.
And it's fine to make it quick, but don't feel like that's unneeded.
Or that it's selfish to talk about yourself.
Yes.
Which it's like the other person is like, please, let me talk about something other than I've repeated the same 3 sentences over and over again today.
It's kind of like when you're a mom of all the tiny little kids. It's like adult conversation.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
Somebody tell me something.
Yes. A balm for the soul.
Somebody crying over a broken crayon.
Yes.
And somebody babbling or talking about balls.
Just say my name instead of mom. That's great. Like, I'm happy.
So that's also good encouragement.
Yes.
Do you have a favorite prep tip that you would share for people coming to your home? You have 4 little boys. You've been going through a lot. Your life is busy.
Yes.
So how would you encourage other busy moms?
Yes, I would say, the best prep tip is picking a menu that you can kind of parse out over a couple days, or at least have some stuff prepped before, the day of. It's such a huge help, which isn't anything original or brand new. Everyone knows that it's easier to do things over a period of time. That also is good when you layer it with also doing the housekeeping beforehand as well, which I don't always do very well. One of the more recent times we hosted people, I was like, I've got this menu, I'm doing it. And Eric and the boys did all the cleanup. And I was like, this worked out great, Eric. We did a front of house, back of house, because we're from restaurant, we met cooking in a restaurant. So I was like, we're front of house, back of house. This is great. And Eric was like, yeah, great. Except it would have been nice if it didn't need to be so so messy to start with. I was like, yeah, that's true. Next time we do this, we'll do some pre-cleaning the days leading up to it. And then it wouldn't be as big of a thing. But he does the whole cleaning up the yard and getting everything nice. And we've got a big table out there that he built for us to host out there, which was amazing. And it's huge, it sits a whole bunch of people. But so those sorts of things, prepping beforehand. I also like having, for this brunch specific thing that I've done recently, is having a coffee bar. Not making individual coffees, but I did cold brew, especially for the summer months. I did a cold brew also multiple days before. Yeah. You don't have to do it day of, and then just put it in a carafe with ice. We have a little mini cooler lunchbox that we filled with ice so that people could build their own coffees out there. And it was super fun. And it's interactive too for people who are just getting there. They can make their coffees and then have something in their hand, which people love to have.
Do you do syrups or do you do cream and sugar?
I discovered the Costco size of the Starbucks caramel macchiato creamer. Yes. It's massive, and so I got that for these brunches, and it lasted for a couple brunches. It was so huge, but you didn't have to have multiple syrups and creamers then. I was like, we'll just do the one.
That would take a lot of time off of the hostess because you're not having to run out of coffee, go make another pot of coffee.
Exactly.
Or try to make hot coffee when everybody gets there.
Yeah.
That is a great idea.
Yeah, especially for the summer months.
Yeah.
I'll have to figure out what I'm going to do when it gets cold again, because my husband and I are starting to be like, oh, hot coffee. We're going to do hot coffee again.
Yes. But
exciting.
Even in the winter months, I would think if you're doing a brunch,
yeah,
iced coffee
I think
is
people
fine because
prefer
you're in
it.
a warm house.
It's okay. Yeah, we've got multiple friends that are always like, if it's a big enough group, our house gets so toasty, without even any heaters on, because we're all close and talking and moving around. Or cooking. That heats it up too.
I still think it would work.
Good. Okay, that's great. I'll just tell people. Beth said,
I approve.
This is fine.
Beth approved. It's on a podcast.
Look it up.
What is your best advice for making people feel welcome? Besides the iced coffee.
I mean, I think that's a pretty good.
Maybe we should just skip this question. Done.
I think I have heard it.
Off the list.
Yes, I've heard it on your podcast before. Just as the hostess turning around and greeting them as well. Because I feel like a lot of times it can be like, oh, well, I'm prepping this one thing. So go talk to my husband and my kids because they're available for talking.
Yeah.
And I think it really helps for when you've done the pre-prep and the food is underway and you're just bringing it out to the table. You can actually do a little more welcoming in with eyes on eye, like giving them some eye contact and being like, hi, good to see you,
Right.
Even recently when we've done the brunches or someone has wanted to bring some fruit to share with someone, watermelon was the big thing people wanted to bring to contribute, which is great because we'll take all the watermelon we can get. But I had people come in and be like, I didn't cut it. Where can I cut the watermelon in here? And Eric just always whisked it away. Like, I will cut the watermelon. And he would go and cut the watermelon. And it was just so funny to be helpful. Like, now you just go get your coffee and we'll sit and chat. And he's got it all under control. He's got it down to a science. Perfectly cubed watermelon every time.
I've got this.
Exactly.
I'll go visit.
Yes, we got a bowl for it. It's all ready to go. But yeah, it's great.
Do you have a must-have kitchen item?
I don't have anything brand new versus what I've heard on your podcast before. I do love the vegetable chopper. I use it for pico constantly because it's got the small grid. So I put the small grid in and then all of the peppers and tomatoes and onions are all the same size and it's pretty fast.
I will second that. Yes. And I know sometimes we have repeats, but I love that because it really does tell people,
fan favorite.
If you do not have this, you might consider it if you do a lot of chopping because it speeds things up so
It really does.
much.
And you can't get kids involved
all the time.
Yeah. You could get kids involved. I always chop my vegetables a little bit so they fit on the grid better. But if I did that beforehand, they love to slam that lid closed and pop the vegetables through.
Approved to slam something down.
Yes, always looking for that approval to be a little rough in the kitchen with something.
Yeah.
But yes, I really enjoy that. I'm trying to think if I have any other items. I mean, no, I think that's probably
the number one.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite brand that you use?
I had a brand that my mother-in-law got me. I don't even remember what the brand was. And then my mom kept borrowing it because she liked it so much. And then my mom broke it because she liked it so much.
Right.
No, so then she bought me a replacement. I think the one she bought me might have been OXO, the OXO.
Yeah,
which is a great brand.
It is a great brand.
It's pretty
and it would be durable.
Sturdy. Yeah. Yeah, and it feels pretty sturdy.
Products.
Yeah, and easy to clean as long as I do it right away. If you let things dry on there, it might be the end. It might be the end of you trying to, because you can't really scrub it. You just kind of have to let it soak again and then clean it later.
I highly recommend if you have those, once you do your chop, take the top part with the grid that's pushing down because the other part's easy to kind of wash out.
Yeah, just kind of spray
take the grid and just run it under some warm water, hot water. And then it comes with a tool that scrapes through the grid.
Yeah, like a little comb. Yeah.
Like a little comb. If you just rinse it and set it over to the side to deal with later, right away, it's effortless to clean later.
Yes.
If you don't, you're going to have to soak it.
Yes.
Which is a pain because, yes, you're right.
And
on
you're
those little
around.
grids, all the onions now dry.
Right, exactly.
Or on the blades, on all these little grids.
Got little pepper skins stuck to it. Yeah.
It's so annoying. So just tip, save yourself some time. Rinse really
right away.
Quick. Throw it over to the side. Keep going.
Yes.
And then as soon as I dump my onion out or my peppers or whatever, honestly, I go and rinse out the container real quick and push it over to the side. It saves me so much time.
Honestly, it's great.
Yeah. Do you have a story from all your years of hospitality, having people to your home? It can be funny or otherwise.
Okay. I was trying to think of this. I'm like, I know I have funny situations that have happened from hosting, but none of them stood out as like hysterical, we want to be funny. But then I was just telling you about the table that Eric built, and that reminded me of that situation for building the table, because I had offered to host my family's Sabbath dinner, because we do Sabbath dinner on Saturday nights, and normally my parents host it. But we were like, it was a couple years ago, probably 3 years ago. It was a while back. And I was like, let's do it outside. It would be so beautiful to do it outside. Great idea. Would you just build me a table real quick? Eric was like, yeah, I could build you a table. And it was like the day before. And so he got parts of it done. Everything was looking great. I had taken a picture of it all set up. It was great. He had built sawhorses where it's got the A-frame to it for them to sit on as the legs of it, because he just built the tabletop out of wood that we had, and it's probably like 14 feet long and perfect for a big gathering.
Yes.
But then we had set it up. I had taken a picture of it. I had put the chairs all around it the night before. Like, wow, so great. I had sent it to some friends. Like, look what Eric did for me. So wonderful. And then the day of, we were having people over. I went and I sat down in one of the chairs just to check on the spacing. And when I sat down, Bess, the table was at like... It was like so
almost
tall.
Neck high.
Yes. I couldn't. I was like, this is halfway up my chest. This is not where you're supposed to be when you sit down at a table. We just didn't think about the height of the sawhorses or something. I don't know. And I think I noticed this pretty close to like when people were supposed to be coming over. And so Eric ended up like pulling the tabletop off of the legs, going and building new sawhorses real quick. And I think people rolled up to him like shirtless in the yard, cutting the stall.
The table's under construction.
Yes. And then he throws it back on, and then we're like, just don't like come sit over here and eat appetizers. Like, he's just don't mind him over there putting the table together that we're gonna eat at in 10 minutes. But it came together pretty fast after that.
Well, what an honor to have a table built for you.
Exactly. We're like, this was a great idea, and it would have gone well.
Table
yes, it
for your dining pleasure.
Exactly. And then you've got the funny like, well, you're a little bit downhill, so it would have been even worse for you on that side of the table, because
you would have
been at your chin.
High.
Yeah, exactly.
Chin high.
Yes, just scooping food off of your plate into your mouth. But yeah, just a funny situation. But people are very relaxed. Mm-hmm. I think it probably relaxes people more to come in and be like, oh,
a funny situation.
Things are just kind of silly. Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, we'll eat, and this is some entertainment. We'll eat and watch as the table gets put back right side up and plates come out
wobbly and on a hill.
Exactly. I think it puts people at ease. Maybe we just haven't had anybody over that's too too nervous about it. Maybe something going wrong, or like, how did you not have plates over here? Like everyone's been very kind and
and forgiving.
Yes. I think people who do hospitality are probably like, well, this would totally happen. Like people are like, things like this happen.
Normal life. I mean, that's another thing. Really, when you're talking about hospitality, you're having people into your normal life.
Yes.
And we've talked on here, guests have mentioned the difference between hospitality and entertaining, and both are fun.
Yeah, there's a place for both,
and
for sure.
Sometimes there's overlap. Sometimes when we talk about one, it sounds like we're talking about the other.
Right.
There's definitely overlap. You're having friends, and sometimes it's more formal, sometimes it's less formal. But in the end, really, with hospitality, you are having people into your normal life, and you're saying, welcome to my home. It's not perfect.
Yes.
We may be sawing legs off of a sawhorse before eating, but we want to visit with you. We want to fellowship with you.
Yes, we want to enjoy you.
What a blessing that is.
It is.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been so much fun to hear all of your tips, especially the encouragement you had for when people are in a trial and how we can be a part of that.
Thank you so much. It's been great.
Until next time, bye for now. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to follow the show and leave a review. It helps new people be able to find the podcast. And if you enjoyed this conversation especially, be sure to share it with a friend. Thank you for your time.